Hi, I'm Don.
And I'm Lori. And we're
Talkin Divorce.
Co-parenting after a separation can feel emotional and confusing, especially when communication starts to break down. Today, we're talking about tools and guidance that can make co-parenting simpler and more peaceful, even when things are difficult. Joining me is Julie Saunders from OurFamilyWizard, here to share how the app helps parents communicate more clearly and reduce conflict. And Carrie Edwards, a divorce coach and child specialist who supports families in protecting their children's emotional well-being through the divorce process. Okay, Dawn, I am excited for today's show. We have two wonderful guests who are going to share a little bit more of OurFamilyWizard. So, Dawn?
Yeah, Lori, I'm really excited today as well. We're talking about the spirit of cooperation and learning how to be civil with one another. And if you can't be, kind of forcing you to do so with the help of an app. You know, that's what this session is going to be. This is part two of a two-part series called The Spirit of Cooperation. Last time we met, we were talking about mediation, why people should cooperate. Now we're going to talk about all the other ways that the law wants people to cooperate, most importantly when children are involved. And that's why we have Carrie Edwards with us. She's a very well-known, what would you call yourself? It's like a conjoint therapist? Is that how you would describe yourself?
I'm a co-parenting coach. I work with children who are whose parents have divorced, kids who have two homes, as I like to put it. I do mediation around parenting plan work. I co-mediate to help keep the emotions down in the mediation room and move it towards resolution. But most of my work is around co-parenting.
Yeah, and we're talking about usually a high conflict child custody case where people need that extra help. And that's why we've got our two guests today. We've got Julia, who's a representative of OurFamilyWizard, a program, Lori, that's been around for a long time. And I can tell you that my firm has used OurFamilyWizard from the very beginning. It's my favorite site. Now, there are some other competitors out there, but I like OurFamilyWizard not only because I'm loyal as all heck, but the program has a lot of different features that Julie's going to tell us about that are different, and you know they're always modifying things to meet the needs of today. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So OurFamilyWizard, because I just heard of it. So what exactly is it?
So OurFamilyWizard is a co-parenting app. So at its most simplest form, it is a platform for parents to communicate all things about the children, and specifically about the children. So they can use it for messaging, they can use it for calendaring, they can use it for audio and video calls as well. It can come with recordings or not. But the point is to have an environment of structured communication that is in the best interest of the children.
And if I could just add here, Lori, is as a lawyer, I get to become an observer of the communications because lawyers could be invited, as well as the judge or anybody else the judge deems appropriate. So not only does it encourage cooperation, Carrie, but it also gives us the opportunity to see when people aren't co-parenting, because if you and I are sending text messages to one another, I could conveniently clip out the parts I don't like and just include your text messages in a court of law and say, you see, look how horrible she is. And the other side might not have those text messages anymore. They might have lost them on their phone or whatever. OurFamilyWizard messages,
they stay forever. They
That's
are
right.
never deleted. They cannot be altered. Once a message is sent, it is sent. And yes, you get that objective view, and it really does eliminate that he said, she said over what the issue is.
And to piggyback on what you're saying, not only can lawyers be added, so can mental health professionals. So I often use it in my practice, and I recommend it often with my co-parenting work because I get added to the platform, and not only can I get a bird's eye view of what's going on, I can actively intervene. So if I see communication going off the rails, if I see name calling, if I see that each parent's made a proposal and a counter proposal and we're hitting this point where they're not making decisions and it's going to devolve, I can jump in. and either facilitate the conversation or say, hey, let's schedule a brief call, which we'll talk about in a minute when it comes to kids probably, but is a lifesaver for kids at a number of levels.
That's right.
Yeah, and one of the things that, Lori, people don't realize is that courts really want people to get along and co-parent. In fact, the law states that it's in the best interest of children to have co-parenting parents, right? They say that it's interested, and that's why we have mediation as part of the process. Unfortunately, emotions get very, very high. There's a lot of bad stuff that's going on inside of the parents that causes them to have problems co-parenting. And Carrie, dealing with the high conflict cases, has been able to mediate. And even when children are kind of estranged from their parents because of what we call in the industry gatekeeping, and stuff. Can you describe some of the things that you do in your work to try to help people or help parents with their children make it work out so that there is less of that problem?
So through my co-parenting work, I take a number of approaches, but through my co-parenting work, I work with the parents to learn to communicate better, to learn to problem solve, to learn to transition from this marital relationship, which didn't work because had it worked, they'd still be married, to a more business-like relationship of co-parenting. And one of the tools we use is OurFamilyWizard, because this is a time of learning. Parents don't come into co-parenting with an understanding of what that looks like from a business-like perspective. They bring the emotions of the marriage into the co-parenting relationship. So it's a lot of teaching, it's a lot of guidance, it's a lot of prompting, it's a lot of modeling, and it's a lot of helping them to understand what the skills are in negotiating agreements, because raising two children together is a constant negotiation of agreements.
Right, and I think that when parents do get on the app, they don't have realized or have not considered previously that there needs to be a calendar, that there needs to be an info bank, that there needs to be a way to track expenses and then ultimately pay for those expenses. And so it really does give them that platform to, like you said, now look at it more in a business light, take out that emotion. And we have certain features within the app to kind of make it a calm, easier discussion between the two. We have tone meter AI now. So what that does is it senses a negative tone. And I think that most people, we've heard feedback from it, that most people didn't even realize they were speaking sharply or, having the emotion in it. And so what it does is it flags it, and then it offers a suggestion for a much calmer tone. And when co-parents are getting along nicely or in a calmer, clearer, focused tone, that it is ultimately in the best interest of the children. The children are going to feel much safer in this new environment that they're navigating as well.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Just tone checking, because both of you, I think, have a lot to say about that. When you're going through an emotional breakup in a relationship, of course, you want to start relitigating what happened in the past. You want to reach out and tell somebody how nasty they are. And even with the best intentions, when there's children involved, a lot of that comes out, right? And the feature of tone checking is excellent, because you have something that's going to be telling you, hey, pare it down. And I like to tell my clients this: everything you say or write on OurFamilyWizard will be used against you in a court of law if it's wrong and stuff. And so if you can't do it because it's the right thing to do it because whatever messages you have, they will be in front of the judge, right? So, in the old days, you would have somebody else looking at your stuff and say, hey, what do you think? Should I send this? That's so much easier now, right?
Yeah.
Right, as a family law paralegal, which is what my career was before I came to OurFamilyWizard, I was that checker of that bouncing off of what should I say now to the other parent. Here's my login, here's my phone. But with the tone meter AI, it's really great because it's a closed network. It is only about family law. It's not like ChatGPT where it's bringing in other issues. You can't ask it a question.
This is my next question. Can you talk to it? How's
no,
my tone
you
now?
can't. But what's really neat is that out of all the users across the United States, it is learning. And so it's getting smarter. It's understanding what the common issues are, and they are pretty common. No case is really that particularly different than the next. People are usually having those emotions over some of the same issues, and so what it really does is it takes that, it flags it. I even wrote up a draft long one, and it flagged it 5 different times. And so it rewrote it. I was wondering if it was going to take out something, like it was about the other parent not doing the laundry sufficiently for my liking in this situation. It didn't take that out, which is really good too, because it's not going to rewrite what you are trying to say. It is just going to clean up that tone for you.
Because when I find that co-parents are using AI out, the mainstream AIs, people know it's written by AI, and that creates conflict and animosity. They couldn't even take the time to write it themselves. These aren't even their words. But the beauty of it being family law software focused on the topic that takes your words and just softens them and makes them more appropriate and more palatable, it is still your tone, it is still your voice, and it's teaching. And it isn't just contained within the app. It's not just learning how to write messages. It's also being aware, oh, I think I say that around my kids. Or if I didn't realize I was saying it in writing, what am I saying around them? And so from a child advocate perspective, I think it's fabulous because it's teaching skills that if somebody wants to generalize them, they can develop the insight and do so.
Yeah, some people still abuse OFW though. I'm going to tell you that I've seen it in some of my cases where even though they know that they're supposed to be writing, in a polite way or in a civil way, that they use it for different purposes. Start arguing about property division or relationships or whatever else that doesn't belong there. You still see that. So there's some rules. There's some rules that should be implemented. And the nice thing about OurFamilyWizard is that there's some suggested orders that they have within the program. Can you talk about that?
Yes, so we have model orders. So we've tried to, come up with the various scenarios of where orders can be helpful. For instance, not just using messages for all of the communication. There are other features of the app, like the calendar. When there is a calendar change request, using that instead of the back and forth in the messages where we could have 20 different messages and like in the last segment, bringing up the boyfriend or the girlfriend. And whereas if you do the schedule change request, it is just very specific, and you're on your way, and it automatically updates the calendar as well. And expenses as well. That's a good place for, I've seen it where we'll put in 10 different expenses, and then some of them are rightfully should be paid, some of them probably aren't to be paid, and there's no way to really track, I agree with this or I disagree with this, or I'm going to go ahead and pay this, and then it can be very convoluted. So keeping the communication about the expenses, one entry per expense is going to help as well to make sure that all of those calculations are in a finite place.
Yeah, parties and attorneys that are going through a custody dispute in court, asking the judge to use OurFamilyWizard shouldn't just say, "Judge, would you order OurFamilyWizard?" Yes, it's granted, and then stop right there. No. You got to make sure that the judicial officer, or if the attorneys are agreeing, helping their clients have specific orders with regard to how to use it. For example, you're going to read it, at least once a day, right? And you're going to respond within 24 hours.
Right.
And there's a lot of little rules, no disparaging comments and things of that nature. And I've seen your proposed orders on the app, and it's really good for that purpose.
Yeah. Well, what happens if somebody breaks those rules and they just don't comply?
So legally speaking, what happens is you're going to find yourself possibly in front of that judicial officer again, and when it comes to a decision as to when, how much custody you're going to have, those things should play out. And stuff, because a big factor in child custody disputes is which parent is most likely to co-parent, right? And if you're constantly, not communicating, purposely ignoring the other person or abusing the system, that'll be used against you.
Or you not using the AI feature. Right? I have clients where there's an order to use tone meter, and a parent will send, I am astounded at some of the things I've read on OurFamilyWizard from co-parents to one another, knowing they're being watched and knowing there's this tool that can edit them. And the judges that I've been before don't look kindly on those clients that abuse a tool that has everything in it you need to succeed. So it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Well, that just goes to play emotions. Emotions just really drive people.
They can.
And how do you deal with that, with the high conflicting, a divorce, for instance?
So it's complex because the emotions can come from a lot of different places. People who come to me typically, they don't come because life is going well. You don't get sent to co-parenting because you're doing well as a co-parent. I love the cases where the family comes and says, we'd like to consult you. We haven't told our kids we're getting divorced yet. We want to know how to do that and when to do that and what's best. But those are the anomalies. Those aren't my normal. What I find for the most part is people come to me in a state of transition and crisis. And so they're driven by their emotions. Literally, the thinking part of their brain is disconnected from the emotional center. And so part of my job is to help get them back in the emotional center, teach them coping skills, teach them the communication skills they need, and provide them supports they need to use those, such as OurFamilyWizard. Help compartmentalize this aspect of their life, because we have to remember they're raising their kids, they're working, or they're trying to find work, they're trying to find new homes, they're trying to settle a divorce. Their life is in complete upheaval during this time. So with the ability to contain the co-parenting relationship to an app that really has it all, that's a gift that we give them, and it then frees me up to help deal with the underlying grief, loss, stress, and emotions that they're coping with, and help them be the best parents they can be.
Yeah, because ultimately you have the child who's in play, and they're the most important. So
Yeah.
I guess when you're speaking to couples that come in, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, because sometimes there's one spouse that is the more dominant spouse that pays for everything, and they feel that they have a right because they pay for everything, but yet necessarily not there emotionally for the child. And then you have the other spouse who is only there just for the child. So how do you deal with somebody like that? Do you have clients like that where they just feel like they can just throw money at it and have it go away type of thing?
Yeah, and parenting isn't generally like that. So a lot of my co-parenting work is about teaching parenting, is about helping them to see what their children need, helping them to meet those child's needs, helping them to build up the strengths they have and teach them to fill sort of those areas for growth. I spend most of my time, I tell parents when they come to me, I have a bias. It's your child. It will always be your child. And so when there's disagreement here, I'm the voice of your child in the room. And so I find that refocusing on that helps parents to come off of their position, helps them to see the other's needs, and makes it less about parent A versus parent B, and a lot more about our children and what do they need.
Right, and OurFamilyWizard, the app is designed to be an even playing field. It is designed to, no one party can have the advantage over the other. And in terms of a case where, let's say that the mom or the dad, a parent, is a stay-at-home parent, and so they're with the children all the time. The other parent is working all the time, but now the other parent is going to exercise, a degree of physical and legal custody. And what does that mean? They don't even think about that when they have children. What are the legal rights that I have? And so being able to use features like the info bank where you get all that information in there. I know for me, I was the holder of all of that information. So in using the app, I would be the one to put the health insurance information, put the doctor's information in there, put the schools and the teachers and make sure schedules are in there, because that's what I've typically done as the parent. And I think parents kind of want to gatekeep on that information too, because it makes them feel like they have a more important role. But
that's a power imbalance.
Right.
Right? The power imbalance can be financial, but it can also be knowledge-based and child access-based and child relationship-based. So co-parenting work and Our Family Wizard help balance that, while the legal system is working to balance the other pieces.
Right. Very, very well said.
Yeah, so Our Family Wizard, I've already mentioned, it's been around a while. I think a lot of people could have some confidence knowing that it's in just about every state in the union. It was actually started in the state of, I think, Michigan or Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yeah, in 2001 by a father who was going through a custody issue. And the daughter of that, I guess the daughter of Our Family Wizard still works for the company. And she's a great asset. And but yeah, it was started in Minnesota, 2001, and so it really has led the way. There have been some other competitors that have come on to ride the coattails, but you know, our app, we're constantly innovating. It's also a very great company to work for. I'm very, very happy there. And we are not only in the United States, but we're in 4 countries as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What other countries?
So the UK, Canada, which I do a lot. I cover a lot in Canada. So done a lot of virtual presentations there. It's a little different, but the same. The terminology is a little different there. And then we have, I think, New Zealand and Australia. So yeah,
so
if
if my client's getting a divorce, they want to move out of the country, I tell them one of those countries. Okay, gotcha. So
exactly.
That's pretty cool, though. You know, it's very cool. I've learned from studying other countries' laws and looking at other states that the one thing that's constant is human problems.
Yeah.
And the way that we deal with the human problems is pretty consistent. I mean, if you were to go in a divorce court in Iran, for example, you would hear the same arguments in front of the judge over there and stuff. You know, and Lori, you know, one of the things that I think we could maybe really focus on is that when we're talking about the spirit of cooperation, the first session we had talking about getting to the end of a divorce. What we're talking about here is not necessarily any end, because what's happening here, the use of Our Family Wizard can go on until the children are 18 and graduated high school. They can even go on further than that. Yeah, you know, and Carrie's work, definitely, if we have 2 cooperating people, you know, they could be using her knowledge and her expertise and guidance well beyond the divorce and stuff. So there's tools in family court that if people have the right attitude, that could really make it a lot better. And as I've said before, and Carrie, you're the expert on this, children that are the products of divorce, if left unattended, are going to be less well off by the time they reach adult. They're not going to be as successful. There's studies that prove that. And as parents, you know, do the right thing. You know, and as professionals, we have a lot of services that can make it better for the families.
Well, the single most predictor of outcomes for children in divorce is the level of conflict experienced by their parents. High conflict, poor communication lead to poor outcomes. And those are serious outcomes. They're anxiety, depression, school failure, acting out at school, difficult social relationships, cuttings, other forms of self-harm, and it goes into adulthood. They have poor intimate relationships. They are poor employees. They are not good bosses, and they struggle to parent. So there's lifelong impacts if parents can't learn to get along and cooperate and collaborate for their kids.
Do you tell people that when they're starting off with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if they're skeptical, I provide more literature than they ever think they wanted. It's an important message. They need to understand that it lasts.
Yeah. You know, you also deal with the case where children are strongly estranged from their parents.
Yes.
And I know that there's some controversial methods that are out there. You recently gave a lecture on something that's going on today. You know, and maybe you could speak of, you know, what used to be camps, but there's something different now.
So it's outpatient therapy. It's outpatient family therapy. There's different ways of doing it. I'm piloting a program called Blueprints, where we provide 12 weeks of structured psychoeducation, and it involves all family members. The preferred parent goes through it in parallel with the non-preferred parent with the children. It's a lot of skill-based. It is learning communication, it's practicing communication, it's working to resolve issues. That's one model. The thing about resist refuse is it comes about as a result of poor co-parenting relationships. If children don't feel like they have to choose sides, they are not going to choose sides. And resist refuse dynamics are children feeling like they have to choose sides. So the moment we feel that children are not wanting to do visitation or having some sort of loyalty bind, the first thing parents need to do is take a step back and think, what am I doing to contribute to this problem? Not what's the other parent doing, it's what I am doing to contribute to the problem. And then they need to get the family help. It needs to be family therapy with a specialist in high conflict divorce. And I can't state that strongly enough, because families have been ruined by people who don't know what this work is and don't know the particular family and social dynamics that impact it.
Yeah. Where do you get that passion? I mean, it's an interesting career that you've chosen, and you've become an expert in an area that a lot of people would kind of run away from, because you're dealing with a lot of trauma. Where do you get that passion?
I don't know where it comes from, but I've always had it. I've always known I wanted to be an advocate for children, and I know children are lost in this system. I know children are often unheard, and I want to be their voice and I want to be their advocate.
Well, we've got two great advocates here.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And what about special needs children? Is that a whole nother model, how you have to handle special needs?
Look, the divorce rate amongst parents, married parents, raising special needs children is significantly higher than the average divorce rate, which makes it all the more important that we make sure their needs are met in the divorce process. A lot of my cases, whether it's a mediation case where I come in as a child specialist to discuss what this particular person's needs, neurodivergence, etc., means in terms of what they need in terms of the divorce, transitions, communication, structure between homes, we have to provide that for the children. It's not their fault they have two homes, and our job is to buffer them from the impact of that, and that is all the more important with special needs children.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking earlier, and you were mentioning how you can put your notes up into OurFamilyWizard as well, so that both parents can see, what your recommendations are as the therapist.
As the therapist or the co-parenting coach, when I do co-parenting, I make summary notes or summations of agreements. Those go straight into OurFamilyWizard to the information bank. Or if I do have specific recommendations for a child client that I want both parents to see, I'll have individual conversations, absolutely, but I make sure that they both have the same information in writing and that it's in the same place where it can't be edited and changed, which is OurFamilyWizard.
That's really a wonderful idea. I've never seen that, where you're going to memorialize what the agreement was and put it and post it in there so that they can both access it. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool, because when you're actually, I feel when you're going through it, all the emotions, they just run high, that you tend to forget, what you're actually doing and what the end game is, right?
Yeah.
So having those little pings and dings and stuff like that comes in, just little words of encouragement. Do you do words of encouragement and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I do words of encouragement. I do a lot of praise. In the midst of divorce, we're all hearing of the things that went wrong, the things we failed at, the things we didn't get right. And so parents need to hear the positive. That's how we build on strengths, is we make people aware of them. Because if we are made aware of the things we're doing right, we are more likely to do them again and again and again.
Yes. I feel like this is so important in today's society because I feel there's just so much noise out there. And it's so easy to get distracted on social media, on just every little bing, 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 bing. But to actually have a place where two parents can coincide in a safe space that will help their child, flourish. It's just, it's amazing from where it was and then where we are today, right? So what you guys both do is truly wonderful. So any final thoughts for our viewers?
Yeah, I would just, the advice is to be nice and like you said, make sure that when you're putting something in writing, you're doing it as if the judge is going to read it one day. But be nice to your co-parent. It will really go miles in terms of the children feeling safe.
I would say there's light at the end of the tunnel and there's hope.
Yes.
Right? Things are difficult now and there may be seasons of difficulty, but there are tools out there, there's professional support, and you alone, even if you run up against an incredibly difficult co-parent, you alone can make a difference. You can set your own boundaries. You can decide to respond to an inappropriate message or not decide to respond. So find your power and your agency and focus on that, because there's so much that is out of your control. You need to focus on what is in it.
Yeah, I really love that. My message to clients is if you receive a message that is 5 paragraphs or one paragraph that's
Don't
2
respond.
pages,
Nope.
just respond with one short one addressing just the issues.
Yeah.
And don't get caught up in trying to defend yourself. So great advice, and really a wonderful thing that our family wizard is to be able to provide that.
Fabulous.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Co-parenting isn't about being perfect. It's about creating clarity, stability, and support for your children as life changes. If today's conversation was helpful, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't have to miss the next episode and the resources we share to support you along the way. And we'll see you next time.